Now it's time for our technical sessions. And first we have the fire chat session with Mr. Sachin Pilot, former Deputy Chief Minister, Government of Rajasthan. And the moderator is none other than the respected Chairman of the ICAI Abu Dhabi Chapter, CA Krishnan Narayan. And can we have the AV please? The title will be India Past 75 Years and Future 75 Years.
Sachin Pilot is an Indian politician. At 26 years of age, he was the youngest member of parliament when he won his first election in 2004. He went on to get re-elected in 2009 and became a central minister in the government of India, handling portfolios such as telecommunications, information and technology, and corporate affairs. He has also been the Deputy Chief Minister of Rajasthan. Currently, he is the National General Secretary of the Congress Party and also a member of the Legislative Assembly in Rajasthan. He has also been the president of the Congress Party in Rajasthan for more than 6 years. In 2008, he was also recognized as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum.
Ladies and gentlemen, with a warm round of applause, let's welcome Mr. Sachin
CA
Pilot.
Krishnan is a chartered accountant and cost accountant having more than 23 years of experience in UAE. Presently a partner in Anderson, Abu Dhabi, UAE. He has a wide breadth of experience across multiple domains including taxation, risk management, internal audit, treasury, and forex operations. He has been part of the ICAI Abu Dhabi Chapter Committee for the last 8 years and proactively contributes to various chapters' activities for the professional development and welfare of the members with passion and enthusiasm.
India Past 75 Years and Future 75 Years Fire Chat session with Mr. Sachin Pilot, former Deputy Chief Minister, Government of Rajasthan, moderator, CA Krishnan Narayan, Chairman, ICAI Abu Dhabi Chapter. So ladies and gentlemen, taking you to the next session. Hope you have a wonderful session ahead. Thank you.
Hello. Good morning once again. It's my pleasure and honor to have Sachin Pilot ji to have a fire session with enlightening share of your experience to our members. Thank you for accepting our invite. Come all the way from India for this session. In fact, it's our honor. Seriously, we had so much of joy when we got a confirmation from your team when I spoke to your secretary. Thanks a lot, sir. First.
Thank you very much, Krishnaji, and welcome to you. And thank you all for being here this morning. And I know this afternoon is an interesting cricket match, so we must finish the session before the match starts. But thank you all for being here. And you, I think I was talking to a few members. You're a very lovable president, by the way. So everybody likes the way that you have conducted this whole event and your team. I must congratulate you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. That's why, sir, we are going to telecast the match also over here so that people can enjoy it at the big screen over here. That with so much of crowd of 600 people over here. Sir, my first question to you. Sir, you studied in premier institutions like Stephen's College in Delhi, Western University and USA. Then you are working in BBC, General Motors. Can you tell us about your growing up years and what made you to leave a comfortable professional career to join Dhaka-Mukhi of politics?
Well, I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to go to a good school and good college, get a good education. Unfortunately, my late father, even though he was an Air Force fighter pilot, he never had the options to go and get the best education in the world. And I recall him always telling me that everything else in life, whether it's fame, fortune, will come and go. but a good education will really be with you for the rest of your life. And it's important no matter what area or field we study. So when I was growing up, I was not a bad student. I wasn't brilliant, but I was not bad. And I did pretty okay in my undergraduate program and my master's degree. I did work in a few places, which I thought was important, and my family also thought it was important. The experience you get by working in an office, office culture, the hierarchy, the discipline, the routine, the rigor of working in an organization is important, for the rest of your life, really. So I had that, and unfortunately, my father met with an accident, and he passed away in the year 2000. I was still in the US at that time, doing my MBA program. I went back, I finished the degree, and then I took a few years to figure out what I wanted to do. It wasn't that next month I decided to become a politician. For 3 or 4 years, I did other things, but I realized that whatever I've learned, whatever I've experienced, whatever I've seen in my growing up years, I could best use it on a platform that is public service. And I'm a little taken aback because you said, you've got a good education, good degree. What are you doing in politics? भाई पढ़े लिखे लोग जब तक राजनीति में नहीं आएंगे और qualified people with good convictions and good backgrounds. In fact, it should be the other way around. You should be asking someone who's not really that qualified, what are you doing in politics? No, not saying that because you have a good degree, why are you a politician? Because policymakers and politicians, whether we like it or not, but the direction of our country is primarily decided by the leadership of our country. And for our leaders, whether we are in government or opposition, it's important to have thinking people inside of parliament and government and cabinets. People who understand the nuances of global economy, geopolitics, understand how things function right at the grassroots level, which is so important for a politician to get elected and re-elected, because the sentiment, the aspirations, the working at the grassroots level is very, very crucial to understand and imbibe. It can't just be book knowledge. It can't be good speeches. It can't be, just all talk. You have to have an understanding of the reality of India. And then at the same time, when you have the opportunity to be in a position of power where you can formulate policies, make legislation, enact laws, bring about reforms, have a forceful and effective administration, you need those skill sets also. So therefore, I think a good mix of people who have grassroots support, who resonate amongst the masses, the same time have a set of individuals who also really understand today's India, aspirational India, and what we need to do to make India the #1 country in the world. For me, that's the #1 objective. How do we meet the challenges? How do we move ahead? And I come back to the point that people with principles, people with convictions, people with some transparent functioning, who are accountable to the people of India, need to be in positions of power so that you can push the country forward.
True, sir. Well said, sir. See, when Anna Hazare Lokpal movement started, so I flew down from here to India because that's the movement which attracted so many young crowd, educated crowd. So, but eventually, after 10 years, we saw how it has been turned out. So that's how somehow, as educated or more qualified people, we feel that, okay, politics is there for our cup of tea or not. That's one of the concerns which always all of us are having, because you might be knowing so many people have come across from various countries, left their job, joined Anna Hazare movement, finally how it turned up. It's a sad part of the story, and people leave their jobs and join the movement.
Well, I think it's important to understand, Krishnaji, that not everybody can be a chartered accountant, and not everybody can be a politician. But doesn't mean that I should know about accounting, the standards, that what the rigor it requires to be in this space. At the same time, people who are professionals like yourself should not be away from public policy and politics and elections. One can be involved. You don't have to take up the profession. You talked about the Anna Hazare movement. That was a reactionary movement, and I think I take your point that what it was meant for, the intent of that movement, the support that it got, the things that were said, really have not come to fruition. But that doesn't mean we give up hope. You see, it doesn't mean that we give up on all that we aspire for. There are hits and misses. There are opportunities that we lose, but doesn't mean that we give up, because the next generation of our country's young people look up to some of us and some of you how do we provide leadership? It's not a perfect world. Not everything we want happens. Yet we must persevere. We must keep our hearts and souls balanced toward what you want to achieve. And if intentions are good, you can fail once, twice, 3 times. But ultimately, people see through it. And you will have that success sooner or later.
Well said, sir. Well said, sir. A big round of applause for your answer, sir. Sir, you are the first union minister be a part of territorial army and also currently the captain in 124th Battalion. So what inspired you to join the territorial army? How do you think it impacted your life? So some of your pictures.
Yes, I see. I'm a lot thinner in that picture. My grandfather was a non-commissioned Havaldar in the army. Obviously, he was not very educated. And so my grandfather's dream was that my father should become a commissioned officer. You talk to any Havaldar or anybody in the army, they want their children to become commissioned officers. It's a matter of great pride to have their children. So my father achieved that, and he became a commissioned Air Force officer, fighter pilot. And of course, he passed away in year 2000. And I thought to myself, my grandfather was in the army, my father was in the Air Force. I can't be the black sheep. I have to also somehow involve myself. And I think I was 35 or 34 at that point. So I decided this is the best way. So the TA basically is a reserved army, but I'm a full commissioned officer. So you have to go through the medical, the physical, the SSB. It takes 9 months to get that commission. I'm very proud and happy that my unit, 124th Sikh Battalion, it's a TA unit, and there are certain commitments that we have in terms of being in the unit, serving a certain amount of time in a year. I do all of that, but it is something that I thought was a family tradition, and I must live up to it. Luckily, the upper age cap was 40 to join the TA. So I made that about 10, 12 years ago, and I'm very happy and proud to be a member of my unit. And there's no greater joy than to have the olive green uniform on yourself. And it's something that people who belong to the armed forces families can understand. The closeness, the involvement, the family life of an officer living in a Air Force station or Army station, वो अलग environment होता है. And I was happy that I grew up in that environment, and I went to an Air Force school in Delhi. So I was leaning towards that for a long time. When I saw this opportunity, I took it, and I was in government that time. So there's a protocol in the blue book, right? So the ministers are ranked higher than all officers in the defense services. So there was a bit of an issue because I was a serving minister, and if I became a lieutenant in the army, then in the protocol order, the army chief is below ministers. But as a lieutenant, I'm the junior most in the army. So it became complicated. And that time, the defense minister was Mr. A.K. Antony. And he took his own sweet time to decide on it because, he was right in a way. He said, if you're a minister and the army chief, who will salute who first? Because the protocol says minister is senior, but the army chief is army chief. So it took time to resolve it. But luckily, I was able to get that in 2012. And it's one of my finest moments that I got the commission for the TA.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah. If you look back at 75, India's year of independence.
So can I just say one more thing? We were talking about being army officers, being politicians. I was listening to Nanda Saab ka main bhashan sun raha tha. Back in the day, 2 people were very important in a person's life. A very good barber and a very good tailor. If you had a good family tailor and a good barber, you felt mentally at peace. Now things have changed. Now the 2 people you need very desperately is a very good doctor and a very good CA. If you have those 2, then your life becomes much smoother. So I think the job that all of you do is a tough job, I must say. And I've had the opportunity to work along with the ICAI when I was in government in India. And I've seen the institute, how it's spread, how young people aspire to be a part of the ICAI. It's not easy to clear those exams. And I'm glad that the president will take up the issue of the degrees being recognized in the GCC countries is important. It's not an easy degree to get. So the recognition should be there. But I just want to put on record the effort all of you do as individuals, as as partners and as working professionals in this space is really, really crucial. And the high quality of standards and globally, I think all of us Indians as professionals are very well known, but for accountancy in particular, there's a high regard for all of you and the work that you've done.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your support. So if you look back at India's 75 years of independence, what have been the biggest milestone, positive milestone for the country? What are some things we should remind the younger people about that so that it can sustain for the next 75 years?
Oh, you see, we are a very old civilization, but in the scale of things, we're only 75 years old as a nation state, and we've come a long way. If you look back in 1947, where we were, how the country was divided, there was bloodshed, there was hate, and fault lines were created when the British left. So at that point, to pick up the pieces in 1947, where the world thought that democracy is a Western domain, elections and conducting democratic elections is something only educated people can do, only Europeans and Americans can achieve that. At that time, for our founding fathers to have taken up the challenge to make India a truly democratic republic, where adult franchise was universal. Even in the US, non-white people had voting rights much later. Women had no voting rights for a long time. But we in India decided to have one person, one vote, universal for all caste, religion, color, creed, language. That was a vision that our founding members had in 47. And they laid the foundation of an India that today we are reaping the benefits of. Of course, one can look back and saying, agar main wo karta, to waisa hota, you could find 100 faults. But look at the challenges the leaders of that time were facing. We were looked down upon, we were discriminated, we had no resources, not much talent, not educated population. And to prove to the world that we are a democracy, it took some time. And today we can stand up and say that we are really the world's largest democracy, and the world looks upon us because of what happened 75 years ago. There's no other country in the subcontinent region that people look at as examples of a truly democratic nation. I won't take names, but even in our immediate neighborhood, there is no country. India is one country because of what happened 75 years ago. Many countries took different paths. Some countries are semi-democratic, some are fully autocratic, some are loosely democratic. But India, from the Gram Panchayats to the block, district, state, MLAs, MP, multiple elections, women having one-third reservation for all local body elections in India, multi-party system, and government's change of hand is smooth. The armed forces never are involved in the shifting of power. So these are great achievements, and that happened because the people who brought us independence had that vision. We could very well be on a different track today, but sometimes we take it for granted that ye to hona hi tha. Aisa nahi hai. It was by choice. A multi-party system was created by choice. It's sustained because our institutions have sustained. ICAI is today renowned because of the institution, not because of present, past, or future presidents, not because of how much money you're earning. It's because the credibility of the institution is impeccable. People look upon it because of the track record. Therefore, in India also, just merely conducting elections and casting a vote is not the real epicenter of our democracy. Our democracy is strong because institutions around our systems are strong. Like in the US, institutions are strong. The judiciary, the bureaucracy, the election commission, the oversight committees, there is a check and balance. So the institutions remain strong, and our constitution is provided for them to remain strong, and that is why we are a healthy, robust, functional democracy. When those institutions are under challenge, when the credibility is under question, when the transparency is not 100%, then creates doubts. And it's upon all of us to make sure that we leave a better, functional republic for our next generation. We cannot take things for granted. Therefore, job for all of us is, fine, we fight elections, we win, we lose, we are in opposition, we are in government. I was here 10, 12 years ago, I was in government, today I'm not in government. It's part of life. But the country, the process, and the institutions, they are far more important than a leader or a party or a government. They will change with time.
True, sir.
Therefore, it's our job to do that. Sorry, I want to make sure that we go back to what you said. What do we do next to sustain our momentum for the next 75 years? I think we have to keep working on it and not take things for granted.
True, sir. So taking a cue from your for the answer, one person, one vote. When we can one person, one vote. When we can expect one nation, one poll.
Okay, so that's a discussion that is happening. I don't think the current government has the majority to pass that in parliament, because some political leaders think that it's not appropriate to have all elections at the same time, because then it's advantageous to an incumbent. It doesn't give the space, the resources, the timelines for others to compete fairly. It's an issue under discussion, but my own view, I come from the opposition. I feel that unless everybody's on board, it could be staggered, it could be tested, but you can't just force that upon the country without having enough majority in parliament. It will not happen.
True, sir. We fully agree.
And I think that one nation, one election, we have now a government which is not a full majority government, it's a coalition government. So there are coalition partners within the NDA, Mr. Nitish Kumar, Mr. Chandrababu Naidu, where there's delimitation, where there's one nation, one election. It has now to pass all those hurdles and then come to fruition.
True, sir. Well said. But when there is a will, there is a change, sir. Because it's going to save quite a lot of money for the Indian economy itself when there is one nation, one poll. Because over every 6 months, there is an election is happening in the country. And parties are giving free revenue and so many other things for each and every elections. So if there is one nation, one poll, it saves quite a lot of money for the economy and it improves a lot. Okay, your point is very well noted.
Last point. You say a lot of money. The total cost of the election is not even 0.5% of GDP. Not even half, or maybe 0.3%. So I think we have to take into account such a large country, different seasons, festivals, populations, communities. Election Commission has to be alive to the fact that kab Pongal hai, kab Holi hai, kab Diwali hai, kab Eid hai. These are things that are very practical. And you just, because it sounds like a good idea ki kuch paise bach jayenge, but what about if participation is low, if involvement is low, if people are not happy to accept it, you can't push it down. So there has to be consensus. To save some money, you can't, see, I'll tell you, our neighbors, China and Pakistan, are not democratic in that sense, right? But वहाँ भी सरकार चल रही है. चीन में तो कोई election होता नहीं है. वहाँ पे तो खर्चा होता नहीं election का. You can say that's another option. So, I think he's a cost accountant, right? So he's trying to see. Let's prorate the cost of elections versus the economy, and let's see how we can cut down the the DCFs करके आप बिल्कुल खर्चा NPV zero कर दो उसका.
Okay. Okay, sir. Sir, the other question is Indian politics is often perceived as being dominated by money and dadagiri. Dadagiri, power.
दादागिरी.
Dadagiri. Sorry to ask you direct questions to you, sir.
अभी दादागिरी कौन कर आप जानते हो? Don't ask me that question.
Sir, not only I'm talking about the people in power, even the people, the councillor, the way they behave in India, it's altogether different. So I'm not talking about all the politicians, I'm talking about some of the politicians or their kids, the way they behave. So how we can work towards changing this perception and reality? What reforms do you think?
Can I just tell you one thing? Somehow, while you're talking to me, you're making it look like Indian politicians,
No, sir.
they come from the moon. Like, जो Indian politicians हैं, all politicians go to the same schools and colleges, same towns and villages, same cities that all of us have gone to. They have not been imported from outside, right? So if someone or something is bad, it's also a reflection of a societal reality, right? So let's not hide from the fact that if there is a person who's misbehaving or using foul language, it's perhaps also a portion of our Indian reality. But हम लोग नहीं, नेता ऐसा करते हैं. भाई नेता आया कहाँ से? वो भी, he's come from the same society that we all come up from. But I take your point that it's all about perceptions and behavior. And when young people see politicians using language that is unbecoming, is unparliamentarian, or your actions are foul or abuse of power, what I've learned in my own life is that if you're humble, if you're accepting of other people's views, if you're open for idea exchange, if you're open to accept, sometimes we all make mistakes as human beings. We should be able to accept that. But this sense of arrogance creeps in very quickly. It's almost impossible to keep away. But one must, to remain rooted, to remain grounded, to remain humble, to remain approachable. And what happens is that at any point in our country, there are hundreds of ministers, chief ministers, leaders, but very few people are able to leave an indelible mark in your hearts and minds. And those leaders who are able, by their action and words, create a space in your imagination, in your hearts and minds. That's the real value. Because once you're gone, and we all have to go one day, once you're gone, it's that, your real asset is what you left behind. So one has to think like that, and that is a cultural issue. That's something we have to teach our kids. We have to give not just education, but some moral standing, our very rich historical, cultural legacy that we have, good behavior, सबको साथ लेके चलो, सबकी बात को सुनो, respect our elders, and you must understand that India is a very large country. There's so many different backgrounds, foods, culture, languages, customs, rituals. One must be able to accept all of that. That's our biggest strength. If we monetize everything, if you monopolize everything, and we have only one way of thinking and one line of action, that's not healthy for our country. And I think young people coming, I travel all over the country, councillors, sarpanches, pradhans, pramukhs, young people, 24, 25, 26, educated people. When we promote such individuals to come into the public life to take on leadership challenges, all this dadagiri that you talk about, all this will go away. And it has already, I think, taken a positive turn, in my view.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Looking forward, sir. Before I move on to the rapid fire questions, I'll ask two questions. In your opinion, what are the key factors that contributed to the Congress party decline in the last 1 decade? What strategies do you think that could revitalize the party?
See, if you just look back, since independence, most parties have come out of the Congress party, which is an evolutionary process. But UPA 1 and UPA 2 were two back-to-back victories that we had as a Congress governments. And then we had the BJP NDA for three terms now. So I think winning and losing is a part of any political party's existence. To your point, it is true that the Congress party's vote share has shrunk in large parts, especially in the northern parts. And we have to actively re-engage with those voters. We have to reach out to those individuals. And the younger generation, which probably does not remember the 70s or the 80s or 60s and the contributions that Congress leaders made in making India what it is, it's easy to criticize now. कि जो कुछ गलत हो रहा है वो नेहरू ने किया था, मनमोहन सिंह ने किया था, ऐसा नहीं है. One has to realize that every prime minister contributes something. Every government does its best. To really denounce everything and to say history when nothing happened until 2014, I think is a very narrow worldview. But for the Congress party, it's certainly a challenge, and I accept it. We've had some wins, we've had some losses, but we have to, like I said, re-engage with individuals who don't connect yet with the Congress history. And we have to give people opportunities. And I do that as best as I can in my own space. I'm in charge of certain states, and I work in Rajasthan a lot. I try and give as much opportunity as we can to young people. I think they have the imagination, the drive, the fire, the creativity to go and prove themselves. And the Congress party needs to engage with a lot of those people, including in urban areas.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we are looking forward, sir. We want a strong opposition, or we want a different party also. Okay. Okay, moving on to rapid fire questions, sir.
I have the option of saying pass. Huh? So
Sorry?
I have the option of saying pass. I don't know what you're going to ask me, so I can say pass.
Yeah. So the rapid fire questions, sir. Then we'll open the floor for two or three questions for our members. So if you would like to have a conversation over dinner with three historical figures.
Say it again.
If you could have a conversation over dinner with three historical figures, who would you choose?
Bhagat Singh, for sure. Subhash Chandra Bose, and Mahatma Gandhi. I think all three people, I've read a lot about them, but to see in person, to see, Bhagat Singh at that young age to, fast for 60 odd days and then, sacrifice his life just for this country. And not, by the way, not for Punjab or not for Tamil Nadu or Maharashtra, for India, for a country. See, we get very easily, Krishnanji, we get very easily identified I'm a Tamilian, I'm a Brahmin, I'm a Dalit, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Sikh, I'm a Jain. These are all what we think. But what we have to think is that we are one big nation. We have 1.4 people as a team. And India has to work as a team. And sometimes it happens that we think of us as we are from certain communities, certain religions. You know, when you are born, no one chooses that I'll become a Hindu or a Muslim or a Dalit or a Brahmin. It's not in my hands, right? So your destiny gives you birth in the country that you are in, right? It's not in our hands. And of course, you have no control over it. But when you achieve maturity, when you become a young adult, then your actions and your words and your behavior, what's the excuse then? When you grow up, then you have to understand that you are what you are, but you can't blame anybody else. So it's not in my hands where I'll be born, but it's in my hands how I behave, what views I have, what education I want to imbibe, and what views I want to express. So we have to do that. And I think what's happening a lot is that I see a bit of polarization in our narrative. And I think it's done for very short-term gains. But the wounds that it leaves, all the fault lines we create, will remain for decades. And that for me is very worrying. And I'd say one more thing. मजहब नहीं सिखाता आपस में बैर रखना. हिंदी है हम, हिंदुस्तान हमारा. Right?
True, sir. Well said, sir. Well said.
Oh yeah, it's important to teach that to the young generation.
Well said. Well said, sir. Sir, your favorite fitness activity?
Right?
Favorite fitness activity?
Fitness activity. Well, I think the best way is to eat less. That's an activity. But I try and exercise a few times a week.
Okay. So last movie you saw? When?
Ever since Netflix has come, it's become difficult to go to cinemas. But I like once in a while to go and watch a movie in the cinema. But I don't recall, it's maybe more than a year. I haven't seen anything last year.
Oh, okay. So if you are not a politician, what do you think you would be doing today?
I was not a politician.
You are not a politician.
But luckily I have enough degrees to have gotten a job. But I don't know, frankly. I mean, when I was growing up, I did my master's program, so I was probably looking at doing some banking or consulting work. But very difficult to say because this is what I chose. And I think this is my calling because I feel most comfortable. I have my good days and bad days like everyone else does, but I feel that this is what I'm here to do. So I don't think about it. I think it's very wrong to go back and think, if I'd not done this, so no space for looking back and thinking of plan B. I think that's not the way to. We should look ahead and say, this is what I'm doing. I enjoy myself. I want to commit myself to the best I can and just work as hard as I can.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Yeah. A hobby you want to pick up, but you are not able to do. A hobby which you wanted to pick up, but you are not able to do.
When I was younger, I did try to learn to play an instrument. I did tabla, I think, for a few weeks and months. And at that age, I didn't pursue it. But now looking back, I would have loved to play an instrument. That's one thing that I should have done, I feel. But it's never too late, so we'll see.
An habit which you want to get rid of.
Huh?
A habit which you want to get rid of.
To get rid of?
Yeah.
I speak very candidly. Maybe I should get rid of that. So my father used to say, he says, when he said, हम फौज में थे, तो commanding officer को पूछता था हमसे. So फौज में सिखाते हैं कि जो मन में सीधा बोल दो, yes sir, जो भी है, अच्छा, बुरा, सही, गलत, you be very forthright. And in politics is exactly the opposite. What you're thinking, what you're thinking, वो मुंह पे लाना ही नहीं है. You have to just speak completely opposite. So that transformation is very difficult to make. And I think my father struggled with that because he was very forthright also. And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So I've also, but you're right. That's something as a shrewd politician, one must not divulge what you're thinking. But I believe in being a little bit more candid and honest.
Yes, sir. So when we can see you as the Rajasthan Chief Minister? When we will see you as a Rajasthan Chief Minister?
Look, I'll tell you honestly, I've been very lucky in life. Very young age, I became member of parliament. I've been a union minister. I've been in government in Rajasthan. I've now a general secretary in the party. And I know that there are many people who are more deserving and more talented than I am and haven't got this much. So it's very wrong to always keep looking for more and being greedy and mujhe ye bhi chahiye, wo bhi chahiye. Fine, everyone has ambitions, which is important, because without ambition, you can't achieve anything, right? But one must not lose sight of why you want to be there, right? The idea is to be able to contribute, to make a difference, to do something that hasn't been done before. So position posts are very important. I don't want to lie by saying, no one cares and I'm a sadhu and I have no ambition, of course. But it should not be the only driving point, because then you lose sight of why you're really there. So I can't answer your question, but I can just say this much, that in whatever capacity I've been asked to work, I do the best I can. It's not perfect, but I do it with good intentions, and I do it with, in a way that I can leave a good footprint. So what life has to offer in the future, no one knows. No one has any idea. But I will continue to work as best as I can and as much as I can till I'm satisfied. And that's for me the most important thing.
As Congress President, yeah.
So I was Congress President of Rajasthan for 6 years, and I'm now General Secretary in the party. So we have Mr. Kharge, who's elected President of the party, and we all elected him as our party President. And he's at 55, 60 years of electoral politics behind him. So we work under his leadership. We have leader of opposition, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, Mrs. Gandhi, who's chairman of the parliamentary party. So we have a party where we are electing people by conducting elections. I'm just making a small, subtle point. I don't know how in the ruling party, who elects who. Hamare yahan pe, every state capital has a ballot box. You go and vote between the 2-3 people who you want to vote for, and there's a counting of votes. We know who got how many votes for the candidacy of the president of the party. In the ruling dispensation, who nominates, who writes nomination paper, who votes, who elects, no one knows. You can claim the world's largest party, but the functioning is quite opaque. You can blame my party also for many things. But I'm saying we have an example in front of us where Mr. Tharoor fought the election and Mr. Kharge fought the election, and both were contestants on a ballot paper. When we picked one, and one of them got elected. But I don't know how it works in the ruling party. They're supposed to have a new president. I don't know, frankly, the mechanism of how that works.
My last question.
Don't be scared. I said it. You didn't say it.
Yeah.
It's my job to say it. I can say it, I have the freedom to say it. You ask only the right questions.
My last question to you, sir. 3 things you like and dislike about BJP, and 3 things you like and dislike about Congress.
First of all, there is no like and dislike. Also, there's no right or wrong. It's what you believe in, right? So every party, for example, which government and which party can say, we are not pro-farmer, we are not pro-economy, we are not pro-jobs. Everybody says it. Every leader says it. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. When you have the power of the pen, are you using to commit to what you had professed before you came to power or not? Again, I am saying it, you're not saying it. But before coming to power, were you for the Aadhaar card or against the Aadhaar card? Were you for FDI or against FDI? In retail, in defense? Were you for the US nuclear deal or against the US nuclear deal? The 123 US agreement we had with Dr. Manmohan Singh. He put his government at stake. Historical agreement with the US for nuclear energy. Who was against, who was for it? WTO. All these issues, DBT, direct benefits transfer. I was minister in the government. We had the first DBT on Aadhaar card in a place called Alwar in Rajasthan for subsidies for cooking gas. The then opposition vehemently opposed it. Today they're tom-tomming, Jan-Dhan account, this account, that account. What I'm saying is no likes and dislikes. One must be true to what you believe in and actually walk the talk when you get the chance to be in government, whether it's farmers, whether it's jobs, whether it's economy. My only worry is that India is doing GDP growth is good for a country of our size, but the problem is the Gini coefficient. Look at the gap between the rich and the poor. It's troubling to see how cities and villages, rich and poor, the gap is widened. And that leads to disenchantment, disgruntlement amongst young, educated population, And what we have as a demographic dividend might become a liability very soon if we don't address it, if we don't create new jobs. And it's always been there, the gap between rich and poor, but it's becoming increasingly large now. And post-COVID, the recovery is so severely K-shaped that we don't understand the ramifications at the grassroots level in India. It's a very large country, and unless we take care of the bottom half of our country, we will never be able to progress at the pace that we want to progress at.
Thank you, Sachin ji, for giving such a
Now he's
candid
realized
answer.
that I must keep him quiet because now Krishna ji's realized enough. Before Mr. Pilot goes on a different tangent, let's close the session.
Okay.
But whatever I've said, it is not. It is a factual statement, and I think because I'm in the opposition, Krishna ji, it is my job to make people aware, to ask questions to the government, to make them answerable. That's democracy, right? And I think in a democracy, the opposition is as important as the government. Two wheels of a vehicle. Unless you ask questions, keep the pressure on, make them accountable, ask for transparency, ask for responses, we will not have the robustness that we should be having in our country. And what's unfortunate is that the answers don't come by. And I don't want to make it political, but I think it's important for the opposition also to have its voice, have its space. And I said this yesterday, I was in Mumbai. And don't forget, today's opposition is tomorrow's government. It happens everywhere.
True, sir. True, sir. So it's our pleasure to have you over here, and you are asking so many. You answer all the questions which you have asked for, and it is so nice that you shared, with your thought process and everything. Thank you, sir. In the interest of time, we have to close the session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. A big round of applause to Sachin Pilot ji for your presence over here, sir.